The impossible has happened, and it makes me so happy. Coach Greg and Dr. Mike have squashed their beef. Big shout out to Eric who got this done. That video, the original video, is down in the description, but I'm sure many of you have seen this, and I want to talk about why I think this is important and a big deal. Because social media is not real life. Social media is largely on who's fighting with who hates who, what's the beef, what's the drama. And frankly, Greg gets off on this stuff. This is how he's built his channel and his following. And he will say genuinely what he believes, but he will not hold anything back from anyone. Now, I'm friends with both Greg and Mike, and it's one of those situations where I understand totally why they don't like each other, but it just frustrates you when two reasonable people who you think are good dudes independently have this vitriol towards each other. So to give a broad stroke of the beef in the first place, essentially, Greg does what Greg does, and he put out some videos critiquing Mike. Mike doesn't really like that, and he's talked about how he finds that he's gotten more aggressive and angry over time, and he actually wanted Greg to be hurt. And so they saw each other in person, and Mike sort of inappropriately mocked Greg. Greg continued to make a ton of videos about him, and on and on and on and on. And for me, the bits that I really didn't like, because look, in the end, I'll make videos about controversies because I know that they do well and whatever. But the bit that I didn't like is when Greg would talk relentlessly about how Mike wasn't earning his pro card. I think when you commit so much time to a process and you fully commit yourself and you work hard and you graft away, to then sort of be tamped down for that is not really within my set of values personally. Otherwise, it was a whole lot of nonsense. Greg would say something, Mike would hate him for it. If given the opportunity, Mike would talk down to Greg and vice versa. And they did such a good job in this interview of acknowledging that about themselves. And it was a really good point of self-reflection. The thing I liked most about this video is this is how I know these guys independently. They can be self-reflective. They can be really kind and really genuine people, both Greg and Mike. And often when I talk about that about Greg, people are surprised, but Greg's one of the most genuine guys that I've ever shot content with, has lots of time, will fully admit to making videos that will make people upset, and sort of that's part of the game. But he's always been really nice to me, and it's nice to see this come together. Now let's zoom out a little bit and talk about why this is important. Greg and Mike are two of the largest influencers on YouTube when it comes to fitness content. Greg pitches himself and markets himself as Coach Greg, and he of course sells coaching and exercise advice and gives his opinion on lots of exercise related topics. And of course, Dr. Mike, with his PhD, talks a lot about the physiology of exercise, of muscle growth, of building strength. And Mike and I have had a couple of great discussions in and around those conversations. Now, with these two guys being at the pinnacle of advice, and not just influencers who look really good and just film their workouts or whatever it may be, they're actually trying to promote people getting into the gym. When you have this sort of vitriol and animosity towards each other, it can be off-putting. Now, that's why I started the Lift Heavy, Be Kind brand in the first place, because guys who look like me, who look like Greg, who look like Mike, who are really fit, muscular, lean, maybe not so much for me, maybe one day, but relatively lean people, it can be intimidating. And that intimidation only gets exacerbated when you voice these aggressive thoughts, these demeaning opinions, the hate that doesn't really have to come. Now, for me, getting people into the gym, getting people moving, getting people exercising, that's the whole industry. That whether you want to be motivated by money, you want to be motivated by impact, you want to be motivated by improving people's health, ultimately your goal should be making the gym as accessible as possible for people to come and feel like they can come and exercise with anyone. Now, Greg does this in ways, and he doesn't do this in ways. Mike largely does this. He largely gives really good advice, and Greg talking down on him and Mike talking down on Greg as a whole and a representation of the fitness community, I don't think it was doing anyone any favors other than maybe Greg and Mike's YouTube views and persona. This whole thing and their whole conversation, it ended with a really good, really seemingly positive outcome. There was a group hug at the end, which I very much enjoyed and I never thought I would see, but there was genuinely an agreement to move forward in a more positive manner. I hope they stick to that. I do. I think the only way it falls apart is if Greg wants to get more views and so says something more about Mike. the only point of contention that remains is Greg has these unreleased videos that have already been edited about Mike. And he is sort of thinking maybe he won't put them out, but maybe will put them out. And I just don't see the point. So Greg, if you're watching this, let's just squash it. Let's move forward. Let's ignore it. Let's cut. You've got 100 videos about 100 different things. Let's just end this for good right now. Because if Coach Greg and Dr. Mike can get together, can shoot content, can give advice together, can be cordial, well, I think that's going to draw a lot of people into the fitness community who may or may not have been there in the first place. And it's certainly going to make people feel more welcomed and inspired to become the strongest, healthiest version of themselves. That's exactly what I want for the world. I assume that's what Greg and Dr. Mike got into the fitness world in the first place, and why they have so much love for it and why they make so much social media content is because they want to talk to people like you and ultimately impact you people on a large scale to be able to get good exercise advice, to be leaner, to be stronger, and to move forward. Now, personally, we have these goals with our YouTube channel, and our goal is, of course, to grow and grow as a business, but it's to do it in the right way and do it in ways that we feel make a lot of sense. And I say we because I have a whole team with me who gives their input on these videos, and we want to grow in a way that makes people feel welcome, inspired, informed. And I try to limit the amount of talk I do about drama. I wanted to talk about this one because I think this is some positive drama that we can all be happy about moving forward. But for the vast majority of the content, I wanted to be out here to support you guys, to help you along the way for your journey. Now, if you want to be supportive of the channel, the easiest thing you can go do is subscribe. Otherwise, leave a comment down below and let me know what you think about this beef between Mike and Greg. Is it a little bit overhyped? Is it too much? Are you happy that they have squashed the beef, or did you prefer the virality of their conflicts? Unfortunately, more people than not preferred the conflict, and that's represented in the views. Or maybe not. Maybe Mike and Greg could get together and do a bodybuilding video and it crushes. We will never know. But what I do know is there is one less beef in the fitness community. There are plenty left for all of you to enjoy, but this is no longer one of them, hopefully. I hope Greg and Mike can shake hands, maybe not be friends, but at least move forward as reasonable individuals and continue on their missions to help people exercise, be healthy, and move more, because ultimately that's what we all want. Thank you very much for watching, guys. Leave a comment, subscribe. As per usual, lift heavy, be kind. And if you want to support my channel, another really good way is checking out the Lift Heavy, Be Kind shop. Or if you want a little bit of exercise advice and education, both free and paid versions of programs and education are down in the link in the description as well. Until tomorrow, lift heavy, be kind, and squash your beef. Squash your beef. Whatever your biggest beef is, try to take this as inspiration to move forward. Onwards and upwards. We'll catch you tomorrow.